The wind whispers through the trees outside, carrying with it the faint sound of snapping twigs and rustling leaves. It wraps around the cabin, your temporary sanctuary, a modest structure trapped in the embrace of darkening woods. Each breath draws in a chill, the scent of damp earth and pine mixed with something more mundane, the fading remnants of your very recent past. Until the decision to escape to this hidden corner of the world had been made, life had not been kind to you. Now, as you sit beside the flickering fireplace, the flames casting shadows that dance across the rough-hewn walls, you feel a layer of the heaviness that had followed you fade into the night. But it is quickly replaced with something else, something less tangible. A sense of wrongness hangs in the air, weaving itself into the fabric of your solitude. You tell yourself that it's just the isolation, a byproduct of getting used to silence that swells and swells until it feels almost oppressive. You remind yourself of the reason you're here, to recuperate, to breathe, to find solace in the stillness of the forest. Nature is meant to be calming, to heal. But as the sun dips well below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of deep orange and bruised purple, a thread of something sinister begins to weave through your thoughts. You set about preparing your simple dinner, some rice and beans, a comforting, ordinary meal. The rhythmic sounds of your movement in the small kitchen help ground you, but the shadows stretch longer with each flicker of the flames, reaching out with elongated fingers that claw at the corners of your vision. You steal glances out the window, where the night wraps itself around the trees like a blanket, and the familiar pulse of the forest hums ominously. After dinner, the dishes washed and set aside, you decide to explore the cabin further. You wander into the cluttered living room that bears the marks of abandonment, a residue of years forgotten. Old books line the shelves, their spines broken and dusty, whispering stories long since silenced. A large, ornate mirror hangs above a mantelpiece, cracked and dimly reflecting the firelight. You catch a glimpse of your own face there, pale and drawn. You step closer, needing reassurance. Yet the moment you do, you perceive a flicker of movement behind you, unnatural, as though air itself has shifted. You spin around, heart racing, but find only shadows. You chastise yourself for being so easily spooked. It's only your imagination, a ghost of the adrenaline that seems rooted within these walls. But as you return your gaze to the mirror, you cannot shake the strange feeling that it is not merely reflecting what is before you. You glance away, the sensation curling around your spine, coaxing your instincts into alarm. The unease nestles deeper into your gut, intertwining with your thoughts as you try to lose yourself in one of the books. You pull it from the shelf, an old leather-bound tome that seems to carry the weight of history. Dust flies as you open it, revealing a collection of stories that are best described as local folklore, legends of the woods, and whispers of the pale figures said to roam under the moonlight. Each tale grows darker, saturated with mysteries that leave a chill in your bones. Something writhes within the silence surrounding the cabin, as if those tales breathe life in the stillness. As the evening stretches on, so does the dread. Every clap of a branch against the cabin and every incessant howl of the wind amplifies the shadows. You try to distract yourself, but the unsettling sense doesn't wane. Instead, it blooms, unfurling like a dark flower expanding in your chest. You watch the fire, entranced by its spirals, but even therein, you find it grows increasingly hard to discern reality from illusion. Finally, you decide to retreat to your bedroom, hoping sleep will wash away this anxious gnawing. But resting proves elusive. The shadows curl in the corners, and the creaking floorboards echo in the stillness, accusingly whispering secrets just beyond reach. You pull the blanket tight under your chin, the fabric a poor shield against the growing chill that seems to emanate from fault lines yet discovered. In the dark, a noise emerges, distinct yet ethereal. You freeze, every hair on your body prickling as you strain your ears to listen. It might be the wind, you tell yourself, branches scraping against the wood, but something about its cadence feels deliberate, a soft tapping that seems to echo outside, framing the windows. You wrestle against the urge to look, but find your feet moving of their own accord. The curtains flutter as you pull them aside just a little, peering out into the encroaching void. What you see sends a wave of ice through your veins, A figure stands in the dim moonlight, just at the edge of the trees. A child, pale and ghostly, standing utterly still. You want to call out, foolishly believing you could reach her, but a tightness in your throat seizes your words before they can take flight. The moon paints her hair almost silver, and though she seems young, the years stretch beyond her features. Your pulse races. There's a wrongness about her, an unsettling aura that compels you to look away. Gathering your resolve, you back away from the window, reflexively draping the curtain closed. Thoughts collide chaotically, but one thread stands out. She shouldn't be here. Not out there, alone in the wilderness. And then the tapping begins again, this time louder, more insistent, rattling against the wood of the cabin. The sound pulses in rhythm with your heart, and instinctively you draw a breath, tasting the sharp quality of fear. Each tap unfolds, echoing throughout the corridors of your mind, and somehow opening the door to unsettling whispers buried beneath the surface. You force yourself to breathe, to remain still, yet the barrier between you and the outside world feels thin, fragile. You step back, retreating to the far side of the room, seeking solace in the dim light from the flames. The tapping subsides, silence returns, a quiet so profound you can hear the thrum of your heartbeat echo against your ribs, yet you can't seem to shake the feeling that you are being watched. This sensation lingers through the night and into the dawn's murky light, a crushing weight that seems to hover in the corners of your mind. Light becomes a reluctant intruder, casting twisted shadows that distort your surroundings, making the familiar seem strange. You shake off the remnants of sleep, allowing the cool morning air to fill your lungs, hoping it will stifle the dread that gnaws insatiably at your awareness. Determined to reclaim some semblance of normalcy, you spend the day exploring the perimeter of the cabin, trudging through the underbrush. Perhaps this is your first mistake. Perhaps it's the quiet that strikes the wrong chord in your mind. You explore the remnants of promise left outside, skeletal trees hovering over crumbling stones, twisted roots that tether the earth. The longer you wander, the more that sense of wrongness expands. There's a faint tug of movement lurking just beyond your line of sight, a whisper of motion that feels watchful, attentive. Nature should feel liberating, yet exhaustion seeps into your bones, heavy and foreboding. At the end of a narrow path, you stumble upon an ancient well, its stones worn smooth from years of neglect. A thick layer of moss blankets the capstone, casting a dull sheen in the soft light. You lean close, peering into the dark abyss. It feels wrong to linger, to stare too long, and yet your heart races as your thoughts spin deeper into the shadows below. As you pull away, something gleams in the corner of your vision, bright against the murky depths. Curiosity tips the scale, pulling you back to that edge. You lean in again, yearning to know what lies beneath. A small, rusted piece of metal glints weakly, just out of reach. You almost reach for it, an intrusive impulse to grasp what shouldn't belong. But then the urge crumbles beneath the weight of something far more instinctual. You recoil. That same sense of wrongness unfurls into a wild panic that sends chills through you. You turn on your heel and flee, racing back through the trees, back toward the safety of the cabin, and only when you reach the door can you convince yourself to breathe again. The quiet may be deceptive, but the shivers down your spine are very real. Clutching the doorframe, you steady your breath, yet the shadows feel bolder with each passing moment. Each creak of the wooden structure is accompanied by the flicker of imagination driven by those tales you read the night before. They echo your thought. What lingers here might be worse than mere folklore. As night returns, you find yourself frantically peering through the window, scanning the tree line and the spaces in between. The child is no longer present, yet you assume her absence could be just as dangerous. You curl up on the couch, layered under fraying blankets, holding the ancient book to your chest for comfort. The fire is smouldering low, the light flickering feebly against the encroaching darkness. The cabin itself feeling more like a prison with each moment. Hours drift by in a haze of restless thoughts. The tapping hasn't resumed, but the sensations have only heightened, leaving you with the unshakable feeling of being observed. A watchful gaze lingered just outside of view. The mirror looms nearby, taunting you with the reflections of your own fragile emotions. Each glance feels heavier, cloaked in the fear that is turning into a thick fog, suffocating and oppressive. You finally drift into a fitful sleep to the sound of howling winds, only to awaken with a jolt, the fire almost out, a chill in the air. You half expect to see the child standing before you, her knowing eyes piercing, but find nothing in the dimness. Yet the cold, heavy dread lingers, heavy in the silence. The wind gusts against the cabin, and suddenly, your body is propelled into action. You leap from the couch, heart hammering, each creak of the floor underfoot, feeling like a warning. You can't stay, none of this feels right, but as you step toward the door, a sense of foreboding blooms. There's a loud crack from outside, a singular sound like splintering wood that sends you running for the windows. You squint into the night, desperate for a glimpse of whatever had just sparked that sound. At first, you see nothing. The trees stand still against the dark sky, the moon hidden between their skeletal branches. Yet as the silence thickens, you spot movement again. In the peripheral of your vision, against the black of the trees, the pale child emerges, just as still, just as haunting. She threads her way between the pines, floating like a dream, and as the air grows heavy with anticipation, you feel a cold dread snake around your heart. You blink, but she doesn't waver. There's something in her posture that draws you in, something eerily familiar, as if you know her from a memory lodged deep within. Yet terror keeps you tethered to your place. You fight against the urge to call out, to seek her, for deep down, a strand of instinct surges within that insists it is wrong, that something far darker lurks beyond the seemingly innocent gaze. But as her presence envelops, you feel it splinter, a flicker of memory breaking loose. Have you seen that reflection before? Is it truly her that haunts you in your dreams, or is it something else entirely? At that moment, she turns her head slowly, and suddenly, the world tilts. You feel a bolt of recognition land. Her eyes are hollow, voids that seem to swallow light. Then the veil shatters, and a realization steals your breath. You were drawn here not by a longing for the wilderness, but by something tethered to your being. You scramble backward, heart racing as the pounding in your ears rises to a crescendo, drowning out everything. The cabin feels smaller somehow, walls closing in, and you can't shake the notion that it's not simply the wildness of the woods that has betrayed you, but something much more intricate, a supernatural web spun from threads we cannot comprehend. Your escape is faltering, the door slams against the wall, and you stumble through the threshold. As you crash into the outside, cold air clings like frost, but the dread doesn't leave, it follows, trailing shadows that coil around your feet, urging you back into the cabin. Closer, you must return. You sprint into the trees, branches snagging at your clothes, each whisper of movement betraying the echo of your hunched breaths. The flicker of the cabin's fire recedes, already hastily fading in the distance, but the spectre stands before you, arms outstretched, beckoning as the shadows converge. You catch glimpses of faces in them, those lost, wandering souls that swirl in a dark dance. As you turn to look one last time, the cabin whispers your name, a soft melody entwined with laughter, echoing, begging you to return, to embrace the enmity woven within the silence. Those faces converge, and you feel yourself sinking, a pull so demanding that you can barely resist. They beckon you back home. In that moment, a realization sweeps through you, that there's no escape. The child knows you, the mirror knows you, the walls of the cabin know you. They whisper secrets meant to root you, to draw you in, to complete the cycle yet again. You emit a sound, a breath caught between terror and understanding. You approach the pale figure, your reflection. You can't find the strength to resist. You step forward into the darkness, feeling the pull of familiarity wrap around you. A lingering warmth, a sense of coming home after having wandered for too long. But as you disappear into the shadows, the trees stand sentinel, boughs creaking in laughter, for the solitude of the woods remains unbroken. The whispers thrum with new life, pulling in all that who exist at the edges, casting their secrets beyond comprehension, waiting for the next soul to find them again. The cacophony of silence hums through the fading night, and the world outside carries on, the story folded away for now, awaiting the next chapter when it calls to the lonely heart yet again.